Hey guys, welcome back to Gamer Dad Reviews. It's Sunday night, so that means it's actually time to do a review. And the game I have chosen to review is Watch Dogs Legion. Watch Dogs Legion is the third installment in the Watch Dogs series from Ubisoft. But quite possibly it's the last one ever, because it didn't sell very well. It does mean though that you can pick it up for a bargain. I paid like $20 for it on PC, and you can get similar deals for PS5 copies and probably Xbox copies pretty easily. But is it worth spending your time on playing anyway? Well, let's talk about it. So yeah, this is the third Watch Dogs game. The previous one, Watch Dogs 2, was set in San Francisco. The first one was set in Chicago. And this one, as you can see, I hope, is set in London. And what a London it is. It is a spectacular setting. And actually the setting of this game in London is the main draw card for me. I'll get into that a bit later, but the reason why the setting was the main draw card for me was because the story, unfortunately, is done kind of in a clunky way. Because the thing about Watch Dogs Legion is that, unlike the first two Watch Dogs games where there's a main character and there's a story about the main character, in Watch Dogs Legion there isn't really a main character at all. You basically just play as whichever dynamically generated character you want to, by going up to them and recruiting them, which basically means doing some random fetch quest or whatever. And in theory, it is pretty cool. But in practice, it doesn't really work to get you hooked on the story, because gaming, more so than any other type of media, the whole premise of video games is that you're identifying with the hero of the story by actually doing the heroic deeds yourself, instead of just watching passively like you would do a movie. So it's kind of clunky, but with that said, the story itself, once you get into it, is interesting, for me at least, because I am attracted to the whole cyber hacker / crypto punk / coder bro scene, and that's the vibe that this game is all about. So for me, the narrative was engaging, for a long while, but my biggest complaint about the story was the way it relied on the whole evil PMC trope, which has just been done to death. PMC, if you don't know, stands for Private Military Company, and it's basically this leftist hallucination that the biggest evil in the world comes from evil capitalist private security companies with their evil mercenaries who probably have Russian accents and probably don't even have pronouns in their Twitter bio. I mean, it's sheer fantasy. But a lot of media relies on this trope. For example, the Double or Nothing by Kim Sherwood, one of the latest Bond novels, which is basically unreadable. And it's sheer fantasy, because after all, this game was released in the year 2020. The same year that governments unleashed full-blown medical fascism on all of us and basically kept us under house arrest for the whole year. So I hate that plot device. The main threat in society isn't coming from some hypothetical private military company, it's coming from the government. But anyway, but apart from that, there are some interesting ideas in the story, and for me, I also picked up on a vibe that's sort of like that Clive Owen film Children of Men. And that was one of my favourite films of the noughties. So I gotta say, despite it all, I did really enjoy this game. I did really enjoy the story in this game, I should say. Even if the only character you end up invested in is Bagley, the ChatGPT AI who is running the whole underground hacker operation that you're a part of, and then you're recruiting random people to join. And there does turn out to be a pretty cool plot twist at the end regarding Bagley. So, I mean, yeah, the story is good, just not great, and just not the most engaging, but it's still good. Graphics wise, on the other hand, the graphics are really good. The textures are really good, the character models are good, the ray tracing is good, the water effects on the River Thames are good. All aspects of the graphics in this game were done really well. And to this day, a lot of hardware reviewers still use this game in their benchmarks. For that reason, it holds up really well, even more than 3 years later. But with that said, the other side of the coin for that is that it does chug a lug on low hardware. It does chug a lug on low end hardware like a slow old steam train trying to climb up a steep incline. I'll publish some benchmarks tomorrow comparing how it runs on a 4080 RTX 4080 Super compared to a Radeon 780M integrated iGPU, such as what lives inside the Asus ROG Ally. But suffice to say, you won't be getting 60 frames per second on a Steam Deck, even on lowest settings. It's not possible, sorry. And gameplay wise, the gameplay it was pretty fun for me, with plenty of puzzle solving, plenty of stealth, plenty of shooting and gunplay. I liked all the missions, but more than that, I actually just liked driving around central London in a beautiful and pretty realistic recreation of the city, which is actually the reason why I started playing this game in the first place. Because my boss had organised a work trip for me and my teammates in Singapore and Tokyo to go to London for a week to do training and team building exercises, and I wanted to prepare myself for that trip and get some geographical awareness about central London. And you know what? Playing this game really did work well for that purpose. The layout of the map of London isn't perfect, but it's pretty bloody good. And by spending 3 weeks living in the city virtually, by basically just playing this game every day, by the time I actually got there, it was the weirdest feeling. I actually felt like I was at home, and everything felt familiar to me, and I had never had an experience like that before. It was quite surreal actually, but I recommend it. I honestly recommend it for that purpose. Where we were staying was in a hotel overlooking the Tower of London and the Tower Bridge. And I was so familiar with the area that I was able to act as a tour guide basically for the other two guys from Singapore and Tokyo who I was with. And they were astonished. They're like, "How many times have you been to London?" I didn't tell them that I learned London by playing this game, but anyway, that's just an anecdote from my experience. And you might want to think about that if you have a trip to London coming up as well, because it actually is a really good way to learn the layout of London. So who is this game for? Well, like I just said, people traveling to London. You really get to know the place inside out by playing this game, and it really is something. Also people who enjoy puzzle solving and third-person AAA action games. It's got good gameplay. And also people who dig the cyber hacker aesthetic and the near future Children of Men style vibe. And just people who enjoy good graphics, good ray tracing, good graphics. You should enjoy this game too. But who shouldn't play this game? Well, for people who the most important part of the game is the narrative, like that'd be people who play RPGs and really enjoy RPGs, you might not enjoy this one. And also you might not enjoy this game if you only play competitive online first-person shooter games or just online multiplayer games in general. This is not that same sort of game. You might not like it. And even if you only play single-player games, but you probably have better games in your backlog if you're anything like me. So if you're not planning a trip to London, maybe give one of the other AAA games in your backlog a go before playing this one. But don't let me scare you off. It is pretty good. So how good is it? Well, I've made a tier list of all the games that I have reviewed on this channel so far, and still the greatest is Astro's Playroom in S tier. Still play that game to this day with my kids. It's just awesome. The next one is Yakuza 0. the narrative of that game is next level. That's just like professional Japanese crime drama writing. Is amazing. And so that's in the A tier. And the next one, Jedi Survivor, is a great game. I love that game. The gameplay is so good. And all of these games are better than Watch Dogs Legion, but it is up there. It's behind Jedi Fallen Order, but not by that much. So, yep, that's just for some context. That's just for some context of my thinking about this game, where I rank it compared to other games. If I had to give it a number, I guess I'd give it like around 8. But yeah, that's my review of Watch Dogs Legion. That's all I wanted to talk about tonight, guys. Thanks again. See you next time.